What if I told you that one simple habit before bedtime could be silently increasing blood pressure in older adults, and most people have absolutely no idea it's happening? Before you take another sip tonight, you need to hear this because a very common nighttime routine may be putting enormous strain on your cardiovascular system while you sleep. It is a hidden and silent danger that only appears after the lights go out. The frightening part is that it unfolds while you are completely unaware. Most individuals never recognize it until one morning they wake up drained, fatigued, or shocked to see their blood pressure numbers through the roof. You see, your blood pressure is naturally designed to fall during sleep. This normal biological response is known as dipping, the period when your heart and blood vessels finally have an opportunity to recover from the pressure and stress of the day. But for millions of people, especially adults over 60, that nighttime drop never occurs. Instead of resting peacefully, their cardiovascular system stays highly active through the night. This condition is called non-dipping, and it is considered one of the strongest warning signs for future cardiovascular emergencies. And if your morning blood pressure readings are repeatedly higher than the ones you get later in the day, there is a strong possibility this is happening inside your body right now. Before diving in, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Leave a comment and feel free to ask questions. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the best health advice from our channel. Together, let's build a healthier, stronger tomorrow. I still remember a 67-year-old patient very clearly. We'll call him Arthur. Arthur lived what most people would describe as a balanced and healthy life. He was not someone eating fast food constantly or spending every day sitting motionless on the couch. He stayed active, took regular walks, watched what he ate, and still every morning his blood pressure monitor displayed numbers that simply didn't add up. During the daytime, everything appeared normal. His physician would check him at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and see nothing concerning, but something dangerous was happening once he went to sleep. Arthur followed every recommendation he was given, yet his body kept failing a test he never even realized existed. He became discouraged and honestly terrified. It felt as if he were battling something invisible. We reviewed his diet, his stress, even his medications, yet the explanation stayed hidden. We will come back to Arthur because what we eventually uncovered changed everything. Most people assume the problem must be salt. For years, we've heard that the salt shaker is the enemy of healthy blood pressure. Others think the issue is lack of movement or emotional stress carrying over into sleep. Those explanations sound reasonable, but the reality is much more complicated. Even people who correct all of those things, people who slash sodium completely and spend an hour meditating before bed, still experience this issue. They make the effort, they accept the sacrifices, and the readings still refuse to improve. That confusion is why so many eventually surrender, convincing themselves it must simply be aging or genetics. But that is not the truth. The answer is very likely sitting in your kitchen right now. Some individuals enjoy a small alcoholic drink at night to unwind. They believe a glass of wine or a stronger drink helps calm the body and ease them into sleep. And initially, it actually does, but several hours later, while they are deeply asleep, their blood pressure may suddenly rise. Alcohol creates what is called a biphasic response. At first, it may lower blood pressure slightly, but later, as the liver processes it during the night, the sympathetic nervous system becomes highly activated. Heart rate increases and blood vessels begin tightening. It is a delayed threat that becomes especially dangerous because it strikes when the body is most vulnerable. Let me explain exactly what occurs inside your body after that evening drink. Imagine pouring yourself a glass of wine around 10 p.m. You begin to feel calm and relaxed. Your blood pressure may even decrease slightly during the first hour. That part is absolutely real. Alcohol does produce an early sedative effect on the nervous system, but your liver continues working long after you fall asleep. Around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, your liver enters intense processing mode. And as the alcohol is metabolized, it triggers a rebound stimulation of your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, the very system that should remain quiet and inactive during sleep. Your heart rate rises, your blood vessels constrict, and your blood pressure, which should be reaching the lowest point of the day, suddenly climbs instead. You remain asleep and completely unaware, but your cardiovascular system behaves as if it is responding to a serious threat. And this repeats itself every night you consume that drink. If this resembles your routine, even occasionally, this exact mechanism is happening inside your body. Now here is where things become even more surprising, because alcohol is not the only culprit. There is another beverage sitting in many seniors' refrigerators that doctors rarely think to ask about: grapefruit juice. It appears harmless. It even appears healthy. But grapefruit contains powerful compounds known as furanocoumarins. These compounds block an important enzyme in the digestive tract called CYP3A4, which is responsible for breaking down many commonly prescribed medications. We are talking about calcium channel blockers such as amlodipine and felodipine, medications widely used to treat high blood pressure. We are also talking about certain statins and anti-anxiety drugs. When grapefruit juice interferes with the metabolism of these medications, one of two dangerous outcomes can occur. Either the medication accumulates to excessively high levels in the bloodstream, or it fails to work properly at all. And the frightening reality is that this interaction can continue for as long as 24 hours after a single glass. You drank it yesterday morning, and it may still be affecting your medication tonight. The cruel irony is that the two beverages most likely to sit beside a senior's bed, the glass of wine for relaxation and the glass of juice for health, may quietly be undermining everything they are trying to do correctly. But those are not the only dangerous ones. There are two additional drinks many people consider completely harmless, and we are about to discuss those next. Doctors often only discover this condition by monitoring blood pressure continuously over a 24-hour period using a method called ABPM. This happens because during the daytime, under the bright lights of a clinic, everything can appear perfectly normal. A patient may walk into the office with an ideal reading of 120/80, but that number reveals nothing about what occurs at 3 o'clock in the morning. This hidden nighttime danger explains why so many people suffer heart attacks or strokes during the early hours of the day. Their daytime health was disguising a dangerous cardiovascular storm happening overnight. Think about that carefully for a moment. You may have spent years visiting your doctor, trusting the process completely. They wrap the cuff around your arm, measure your blood pressure, and reassure you that everything looks fine. But the traditional office visit is structurally unable to detect this issue. It cannot observe what happens at 3 o'clock in the morning. And 3 o'clock in the morning is exactly when the greatest danger occurs. Research has clearly confirmed that blood pressure follows a natural 24-hour cycle. It should reach its lowest point, what cardiologists refer to as the nadir, sometime between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. Then it slowly rises again around 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock a.m. as the body prepares to wake. That early morning rise is completely normal, but in non-dippers, the rise begins from a baseline that never properly fell during sleep. So instead of increasing from a calm and recovered state, it rises from an already elevated level. This is exactly why most heart attacks and strokes do not happen in the middle of the afternoon. They occur during the early morning hours. The cardiovascular system has been under strain all night long, and the morning surge becomes the final trigger. The Ohasama study, one of the most significant long-term blood pressure investigations ever conducted, found that non-dippers had dramatically higher rates of stroke, kidney damage, and thickening of the heart's left ventricle compared to people whose pressure dropped normally at night. This was true even when their daytime readings were perfectly normal during the day, dangerous at night. And their doctors had no idea. This is exactly what was happening to Arthur. His chart looked clean. His afternoon readings were unremarkable. But every night his arteries were under a pressure load they were never designed to sustain for that many hours. And that sustained pressure was doing damage that would only show up later in ways that would be much harder to reverse. We are about halfway through what I need to show you. We have covered the non-dipper phenomenon, the alcohol mechanism, the grapefruit problem, and what the research tells us about why those early morning hours are so dangerous. What comes next is the rest of the drink list, Arthur's answer, and the exact protocol that changed his mornings. Stay with me because this next part is where it gets specific. So we have talked about alcohol and grapefruit juice. But I promised you there were two more. And honestly, once I tell you what they are, you are going to understand why this problem is so widespread. The first one is caffeinated herbal tea. Now I know what you are thinking. Herbal tea is the definition of a calming bedtime drink, and many herbal teas are genuinely caffeine-free and completely fine. The problem is that the herbal tea category has exploded in the last decade, and a significant portion of what is being sold under that label is not caffeine-free at all. Yerba mate, certain green tea blends marketed specifically as relaxing or detoxifying, some energy-adjacent wellness teas. These can carry enough caffeine to measurably blunt your nocturnal blood pressure dip. And because the packaging says herbal, people never make the connection. They drink it every night for years, wondering why their morning readings are elevated. Check the label tonight. If it does not explicitly say caffeine-free, do not assume. The second one is going to surprise you even more. Fruit juice, standard everyday fruit juice, orange juice, apple juice, the drinks your parents gave you as a child, the drinks you have considered healthy your entire life. Here is the problem. A glass of fruit juice before bed delivers a rapid surge of sugar into your bloodstream. Your body responds by releasing insulin. And insulin, particularly when it spikes at night, triggers the release of cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Cortisol activates your sympathetic nervous system. It tells your blood vessels to stay constricted. And it does all of this while you are lying in the dark thinking you are at rest. The sugar in that juice is essentially sending a biological alarm signal through your cardiovascular system at the exact moment your heart is supposed to be recovering. There are also two other categories worth mentioning. If you are one of the many seniors who have started drinking protein shakes or meal replacement drinks in the evening, be aware that certain high-concentration protein formulas can stimulate the release of norepinephrine as they are metabolized. The effect is mild in isolation, but if it is happening every night, it is cumulative. And sports drinks or electrolyte beverages taken before bed deliver a sodium load at the moment your body becomes horizontal. That sodium increases fluid retention and raises what is called cardiac preload, the pressure with which blood returns to the heart, not what you want when the goal is rest. So let's name them all clearly. Alcohol, grapefruit juice, hidden caffeine herbal teas, sugary fruit juices, high-sodium electrolyte drinks. Look at that list and think honestly about your own kitchen. One or more of these is almost certainly in there right now. Arthur was not doing anything dramatic. He was not drinking excessively or eating recklessly. He had simply fallen into a routine with one of these drinks, completely convinced it was helping him. And it had never once been flagged by anyone who was supposed to be looking out for him. Back to Arthur. He had tried everything. He cut out the extra salt, he walked 3 miles a day, and he was taking his pills exactly as prescribed. Still, the morning readings were high. We were at a loss until we looked at one simple habit. We looked at what was on his nightstand. It wasn't coffee, it wasn't tea, and it wasn't a failure of his medication. It was what he was drinking before bed. He had fallen into a routine that he thought was helping him, but it was actually keeping his blood vessels in a state of constant tension. His nighttime drink was the problem. Once we identified it, we made one specific pivot, we removed it. And then, instead of leaving the habit empty, we replaced it with something that actually works with the body at night rather than against it. We introduced a small specific amount of beetroot juice. At night, your blood vessels should relax and dilate, allowing blood to flow easily with less pressure on the artery walls. But some drinks, specifically those high in hidden sugars or caffeine-mimicking compounds, keep those vessels tight and rigid. Beetroot works differently. It is rich in natural nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide. This gas acts as a powerful vasodilator. It tells the smooth muscle cells lining your artery walls to relax and open up, improving blood flow while you sleep and encouraging that dipping effect that is so crucial for heart health. It addresses the non-dipping problem at its chemical root. But the effect goes further than just vessel relaxation. Nitric oxide has also been shown to reduce platelet aggregation, meaning it helps prevent the kind of blood clotting that becomes most dangerous in those early morning hours when the cardiovascular surge begins. It also reduces oxidative stress on the inner lining of your arteries, the endothelium, which is the tissue that takes the most long-term damage from sustained nighttime hypertension. A landmark study published in the journal Hypertension by Kapil and colleagues found that dietary nitrate supplementation produced clinically significant reductions in blood pressure in hypertensive patients, with effects that were particularly pronounced during nighttime hours. This is not a folk remedy. This is biochemistry working in your favor. Now here's the exact protocol. About 45 to 60 minutes before you plan to sleep, drink 4 to 6 ounces of pure beetroot juice. Not a beetroot blend with added fruit sugar, not a supplement that claims to be equivalent. Pure beetroot juice, unsweetened. The timing matters because the nitrate to nitric oxide conversion process takes roughly 30 to 45 minutes to reach peak effect. You want that window of maximum vasodilation to coincide with the first few hours of sleep when the dipping process should naturally be underway. Do not add anything to it that contains sugar. As we discussed, sugar at night triggers insulin, which triggers cortisol, which directly counteracts the vasodilation you are trying to create. A squeeze of lemon is fine, a small amount of ginger is fine, but keep it clean. While you are building this habit, there are a few other things worth doing alongside it. If possible, sleep on your left side. This is not a minor detail. Left side positioning reduces the mechanical compression on the descending aorta, improves the efficiency of blood return to the heart, and has been shown to reduce the workload on the cardiovascular system during sleep. If you are not used to it, it takes about a week to adapt, worth every night of adjustment. Dim your lights and put the phone down at least 30 minutes before bed. Screen light suppresses melatonin production, and melatonin has a mild but real blood pressure regulating effect that most people have never been told about. You are not just protecting your sleep quality when you do this. You are protecting your cardiovascular recovery window. And if your doctor approves, magnesium glycinate is worth bringing up at your next appointment. It is one of the most well-studied minerals for both sleep quality and nocturnal blood pressure regulation, and it is significantly underutilized in senior cardiovascular care. Arthur followed this protocol. Not all at once and not perfectly, but within 3 weeks of removing the drink that was keeping his vessels tight and introducing the beetroot juice at the right time, his morning readings began to change. Not dramatically at first, but consistently. The ghost he had been fighting for months finally had a face. And once you can see the problem clearly, you can actually solve it. This isn't about what you eat during the day. It's about what happens while you sleep. We focus so much on our waking hours that we forget that the heart never takes a vacation. It is a 24-hour organ that requires a 24-hour strategy. And it has been working for you every single hour of every single day of your entire life without asking for anything in return. Look at what is on your nightstand tonight. Look at what you have been reaching for before bed, because sometimes the difference between a dangerous morning and a healthy one is not a new medication or a complex procedure. Sometimes it is one drink removed and one drink added. Fix your night and your mornings change.